As a kid growing up, there was only one city that I wanted to live in, London. And after finishing my undergrad, there was only one college that I wanted to get into for my master's, King's College London. So when I achieved that lifelong dream in 2023, how did it all go so wrong? How did it all come crumbling down to the extent where I dropped out of King's in just a couple of weeks? Why would I drop out of one of the best universities in the world? Well, the short answer is that the study abroad dream sold to students is far from the ground reality. If you want the long answer though, it's way more complicated than that, so keep watching. For any of the rest of the video to make sense, you're going to have to know a little bit about my personal story and circumstances. I promise I'll try to make it as short or concise as possible, so bear with me while I get into my journey until this point. A childhood passion of writing of mine led to personal branding and freelance ghostwriting for founders and execs on LinkedIn. It started slow, but by the time I graduated from my undergrad, I was already making far more money and having way more fun ghostwriting than I ever would at an entry-level job in my field. I didn't have any grand plan. I was just ghostwriting on the side while studying full-time. But as I grew and as my own social media and network and just time in the game grew, opportunities started to come my way that I couldn't possibly say no to. But by the time I graduated in August 2023, I felt the societal pressure and the guilt to stick to the plan, to follow my dream, to do whatever is considered the safest path of studying, getting a good job, going abroad for my master's and so on. But I'll be honest, more than societal pressure, it was my own guilt for not feeling like sticking to the dream or for starting to question the dream in the first place. After all, I'd always wanted to study and live abroad. So how could I give up on something like that just because I was doing well, freelancing part-time? I knew long-term I wanted to build a career in social media and marketing, regardless of what I studied or where in the world I lived or regardless of anything else in my life. I knew that the end goal was always a content-based business. So applying for a master's abroad, especially given the fact that I'd have to take a student loan on my own name to fund it, made absolutely no sense on paper. The cracks were already starting to appear in my dream life plan. But I went against my gut instinct, against my intuition, and applied to a bunch of colleges in September 2023 anyway. By October, I'd gotten into most of my target schools, and by November, I'd accepted an offer from King's and was set to fly off to the UK for my master's in September of 2024. Fast forward to August 2024, just weeks before I was set to leave. This is when I knew I was unequivocally and irrevocably This is also the part of the story where you go, oh, cry me a river, dude. So basically, I'd succeeded a little too well in my freelancing career. I was working part-time at a couple of international agencies, making money in foreign currencies, making at least a couple of lakhs a month, still doing part-time freelance ghostwriting pretty much. And by all accounts and measures, things were going well. But to top it off, because I was going to the UK on a student loan, 60 lakhs of student debt if you're curious, I knew I would have to get a part-time job to sustain myself from day one. And because I'd started early and because I knew this going in, I managed to get a part-time job in my industry at my dream company even before landing in the UK. So wasting that much money, that 60-70 lakhs of debt, was starting to feel a stupider and stupider decision by the day. But the real shock came when I landed in the UK. My student accommodation was a literal shoebox. I remember I couldn't even open my suitcase fully. It was that tiny and that narrow. If you know anything about London houses, this will make sense, but this was at a whole other level. So I was thinking to myself, this is what I'm paying 1.5 lakh a month for? Second, the UK has no ceiling fans or air conditioning or any of that. And obviously I'd arrived in the summer. Much like how I'm recording this video right now, I am sweating my balls off. And in most places in the UK, in most houses, or at least the houses that I've lived in, unfortunately, the windows don't fully open. So the heat is already killing you. But to make matters worse, my student accommodation, the place I was living at when I was a student, was right next to a train station. And I'm talking about the overground train, not even like the tube. So it would anyway be too noisy for me to even crack the window open when I'm sleeping, because I'm a light sleeper and I just wouldn't be able to sleep with the train noise. So yeah, I was dying. And if that wasn't enough, on top of already dealing with culture shock, the heat, my debt, loneliness, living away from family, adapting to a new life abroad, the cherry on the cake was what happened when classes actually started. Given the fact that students move their entire life and come from all across the world, I expected the quality of education to be at least much better than what we have back home, right? Even if it's not like blow your mind world class. And what I saw was pretty disappointing. For one, my course had no exams. We had classes only, I'd say, 2 to 3 days a week max, which is the standard in the UK. But also, my course in particular, we'd only have actual teaching and learning done, like actual classes only, I'd say, 5 months of the year. And this was already a 1 year degree, so it was starting to feel less and less worth it. But then when classes actually started and I saw that, some teachers were still doing the same old, coming to the class, reading off of a PPT, just doing their job and getting out. I'm not saying every professor was like that, but there were definitely some like that. And I thought, oh my God, this is not worth it whatsoever. But I was still confused and a little bit in shock. How could my biggest dream have turned out into my worst nightmare? But okay, let me not make this all about myself. What helped me decide what to do next was forcing myself to be really logical and objective instead of being emotional because of everything that was happening in the moment. What do most students come to study to another country for? To get a good job and get a sponsored visa, hopefully right after. I already had my dream job. So studying more not only wouldn't help me that much more, it would actually hold me back. As an international student in the UK, you're only legally allowed to work part-time. And since my company was remote, I thought, what if I just dropped out, went back home, went full-time at my job because I didn't have the part-time student visa restrictions anymore. I would be sitting at home, and my company, by the way, didn't really care about me studying or my location and things like that. So I'll admit it, I did get lucky there. But I thought, what's to stop me from dropping out, moving back home, going full-time, sitting in India, earning a full-time UK salary? Who in their right mind wouldn't jump at that chance? So I ended up somehow in a situation where doing the degree would actually be detrimental to my career and goals in the short run at least. Again, I'm lucky that the content industry as a whole doesn't really care about your degrees. They care mostly about your experience, your skills, your portfolio, and so on. Obviously, this might not work in more traditional fields like law, medicine, consulting, and so on. But okay, if the end goal after all of this, not just for myself, but for any international student, is to get a sponsored job after your PSW ends. PSW is a post-study work permit for students here in the UK. If that was the goal, how was I more likely to achieve that goal? I had two paths in front of me. Was I more likely to achieve that goal struggling to make ends meet, living here in London, just scraping by, only being allowed to work part-time, obviously end up with like 60 lakhs of debt, so having less freedom and choice about the kind of work that I do? Or was I more likely to achieve that goal of a sponsored job and building a life in the UK, dropping out, moving back home, enjoying the comforts of home, enjoying the purchasing power parity of India, working my ass off, having all of the help and support and parents and mates and whatnot that we have the privilege of having in India, which unlocks full focus, being obsessed with work, working my ass off, and then convincing my company to sponsor my move and sponsor my visa and move back to the UK. Since I'm here recording this and you're watching this, you can guess which one I picked. The sunk cost fallacy is an economic concept where someone keeps digging themselves deeper into a bad situation because of the time, effort, energy, and money they've already invested into it. If I dropped out after the first couple of weeks, I'd lose approximately 7 to 8 lakhs that I'd paid in like deposit and accommodation first few weeks, charges and so on. And I had that much money saved up on my own from like the years of freelancing and stuff. But if I stayed and did the whole degree, I'd be 60 or 70 potentially lakhs in debt, which is almost 10x of the amount of money that I'd have lost. And I'd almost certainly have a worse quality of life simply because of the fact that number one, I'd be more stressed about the money. I'd have more pressure to get the ROI and to make the degree worth it. But number three, the debt would certainly impact every single life choice that I'd made, and I'd have less optionality and less freedom of choice just purely because of the fact that I had that debt looming over my head for something which potentially might not even be worth it. A lot of people told me, a lot of good well-wishers told me that at least give it a shot, try studying, try doing the degree for a few months and then take a call. But I realized that by taking the advice, I would have been spending a cool 15 to 20 lakhs more for something which I was sure by this point was not worth it. So I ignored what everyone else said trusted my own gut instinct this time, the same gut instinct that knew this was a bad idea all along, and I dropped out. Because yes, I was in a shit situation, and yes, it was my responsibility, but there was simply no way I was digging myself deeper into this. This was the hardest decision I've ever had to make. I felt like I was letting everyone down. I felt like I was sacrificing or giving up or losing my lifelong dream. So I compared the two paths by asking myself, what's the worst case outcome of each path? And which of these worst case outcomes would be easier to live with or deal with? Which of those would be more manageable? Path 1, finishing the degree. I'd still want the same job after graduating that I already had. I'd be in 60 lakhs of debt, enter a bad job market, have to compete with all other grads for a job. I'd have no freedom to choose the kind of work I'd want to do because I'd have EMIs to pay for the loan. I'd also find it harder to quit or change jobs or my location in the future. Part 2, dropping out. I drop out and regret it. I want to move back to London. My company fires me. Part 1's worst case scenario was way worse because I wouldn't be able to control getting out of it, whereas part 2 was the opposite. If I regretted dropping out, I could just study again. If I wanted to move back to London, I could convince my company to sponsor my work visa. If they fired me, I could just go back to freelancing and make bank again. So if part 2 ended up badly, I'd be fine. But if part 1 ended up badly, I'd be absolutely helpless. But wait, before you get even a little influence to drop out or make a rash decision, consider these 5 really important questions. Ask yourself these 5 questions. Number 1, who's paying for it? If your family is paying for it, are you fine feeling indebted to them for the rest of your degree or life even? If you're paying for it, are you fine being in debt for the next 10, 15, 20 years? Number 2, what's your goal? If your goal is just to experience personal growth, live the study abroad dream or life, and money is not tight, go for it. If money is tight, it's not worth it. That goal of wanting to experience life abroad, wanting to be a student in a foreign country, that alone is not worth the debt and struggling for money. Number 3, what's your risk appetite? The odds are going to be stacked against you as an international student every step of the way. You pay a lot, job markets abroad are hard, to get a sponsored job is even harder. Do you have the right risk appetite to take a gamble on studying abroad? Number 4, do you actually need the degree to achieve your professional goals? Because more and more fields, more and more companies these days are prioritizing in-demand skills, work experience, and having a portfolio rather than where you've studied, what you've studied, and so on. Number 5, if you do want to study, do you know what you're going to do instead? Call me a little old-fashioned and this funny coming from someone who dropped out, but I'm not in the camp of, oh, let me just drop out and take some time to figure out what's next. Because dropping out, if you know what else you're going to do, if you know what's coming next, is fine. But winging it and taking this big leap of faith without having the right or even any alternative, it's a very dangerous game to play so early in your career. Because early in your career, clarity and focus is so important. If you want to have the balls to say no to something traditional that everyone else tells you that you should be doing, then have the clarity to know what else you're going to do instead. When I decided to drop out, everyone called me crazy. And it's those same very people who call me gifted and ballsy and courageous and whatnot for actually making the leap today. As of now, as I record this in July 2026, I've lived in London again for the last year. I do a sponsored job at a company that I love, and I'm about to start my absolute dream job, which I'm really excited for. But more importantly, I have loads of fun with people that I work with. I have a nice friends group here in London. I have a good routine. Life's not perfect, but I'm still closer than ever with my loved ones, enjoying what I do for a living. More importantly, I have no debt, no pressure to stay at a job or to get a job and whatnot. So life's good. I also get to travel the world. I do consider myself blessed, but this isn't a flex. My point here is let the naysayers call you crazy. Let them judge you, mock you, make fun of you, diss you. Let them say whatever they want. As long as you're sure of what you want and don't want, follow your gut instinct, back yourself. Nobody knows what's right for you better than you. So trust your gut instinct. In my next video, I'll talk about how the actual first 12 months of living and working in London have gone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that one.